Welcome, everybody, to the 10 Count podcast brought to you by bodyslam.net. And your boys are coming off a very fun Tuesday night. If you didn't check us out on the Wrestling Junkies podcast yesterday at 7 p.m. Eastern, it was more like 7:20-ish. We got to join Mr. Cincinnati and the podcast dad live on their podcast. We followed after I'm trying to think his name, Connor Hopkins, who was their first guest, and we kind of followed suit afterwards for a nice Raw chat, which was super fun. We'll probably get into a little bit more Raw stuff for you guys who watch us. But go check them out. The Wrestling Junkies podcast, super chill guys. They're live, I think, pretty much every day. So check us out on the Wednesdays and the Sundays, and you can go check them out the rest of the week. But what'd you think, man? That was a fun Tuesday night. It was the first time that I was a guest on a podcast. I know it wasn't your first time, but it was kind of electric. I kind of liked it, like sitting back and asking questions. It was a fun time. They're chill dudes, man.
They're awesome guys. I appreciate them inviting us on. It's different, right? I mean, especially like even with like when I went on NXT with Najee from Body Slam, getting the introduction is kind of it's different. And I said it both times, like, damn, like, all right, like you're trying to hype me up right now, like you're trying to gas me up. I appreciate it. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to gas up your guests. But no, amazing guys. We're gonna work with them more. Hopefully we'll get them on our show. We may jump back on their show. Obviously Wednesday nights are the only night we kind of, it's kind of like a competition, but hey, it's all for the fun. It's all good. They're live a lot more than we are. I mean, props to them. Shout out to them. That's a hustle 5 nights a week or whatever they're doing. Especially with podcast dad getting attacked from behind by his children, like while he's live. No,
I was expecting to see a steel chair come from behind him and get knocked.
Dude, I wouldn't have been shocked. I would not have been shocked if that happened. But no, shout out to them, and can't wait to work with them more. We stopped last night, probably right around 8:00 when NXT was starting, and we kind of gave predictions towards NXT, and our predictions were very wrong. We have a lot to talk about tonight. So without further ado, let's get started.
Yeah, I mean, if you see first, I made an upgrade. I'm not on the floor. I feel like I had to be more presentable being a guest on a podcast, and I should have been this lazy to begin with. So I've upgraded. Tomorrow, I am forcing myself to start the update of the Creation Station, get a better vibe, get myself in a better spot instead of in this living room that looks kind of looks like a fake Microsoft Word background when you're in a meeting. And I'm done with that. I want some good memorabilia like Justin's got over there in the background. But anyway, I digress. NXT was shocking, like you said, to say the least. A lot of cool moments, a lot of things that we did not expect. I kind of want to just get right into the shocking moment. I think this is what everyone's talking about on the internet. We kind of had our first, I'm not going to say botch, but first mistake as a title change. A non-planned title change, I'll say. I do not want to say botch because it really wasn't. I think there was just some miscommunication. Obviously, that sucks. We had Blake Monroe's music playing when Thea Hale won. You could see the surprise factor in both their faces. Thea Hale played it up. I don't know if it was genuine because she was happy to be a champion at that point, even if it was a mistake, or if she was just playing up the part. But we were talking about this before we started. Like, Blake's got a few months of story planned out, and that gets people scrambling. I can't remember the last time we've seen something like this happen. Things go awry, especially for a title change. I kind of like it, man. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what plans they had for Thea Hale in the future, but even if she loses this championship soon, at least she is and can say she's been a champion in NXT, in WWE. So that's a cool thing for her, even if it's a mistake. So I hope she, gasses it up a bit. I hope she takes it in. If they do a swap back to Blake Monroe pretty quickly, at least she's got to, enjoy it as she can, even if it is a mistake.
So like I said before, when we were finishing up the podcast with the Wrestling Junkies last night. It was a little after 8, so I headed upstairs. I made sure my wife was good with my son, so I really didn't get to tune into NXT until after the match. So I'm scrolling through X, and I see that I just see Blake Monroe lost. So my first reaction is, what freaking direction are we going in with Blake Monroe? Because this is absolutely ridiculous. Then, the clips start coming in. You see Thea Hale hit pretty much a coffin drop harder than Darby Allin has ever hit. And I was like, oh, that looked like it hurt. And we've seen on NXT, we've seen botches. We've seen where there was a miscue and the ref just stops counting. So, I mean, good on the referee to continue the count. I mean, Blake clearly kicked out after the 3 count. So, I don't know if Thea was leaning too much, like with the pin. I don't know, all that stuff. But I mean, I think the ref had to count it, because then it would have had that awkward moment again of like, oh, that wasn't supposed to happen. So regardless, neither thing was supposed to happen. The good thing that they have going is, if there's any character to lose a title and just start bitching and complaining about the referee or something not being fair, it's Blake Monroe. So, like, God forbid this happened to Oba Femi. You're not going to see Oba go and bitch. Blake can absolutely bitch. She wants that referee fired. She wants that referee gone. She wants that referee to move out of the state of Florida. Like, that's how pissed off she is. So the recovery, I think, will be fine. I believe they're recording next week's tonight. So, I mean, there was a scramble. There's definitely a scramble going on backstage to try to figure out how to make this work. But if there was ever someone to lose the title like this, I think they got lucky with it being Blake, because it just fits perfectly.
So my only issue with that is, does it fit perfectly? Yes. But you just hashed out everything that Becky Lynch is currently doing on Monday Night Raw. So I don't know if you can go that route. Becky's targeting Jessica Carr, calling her a corrupt referee. She's going after everyone. So if Becky wasn't in this current state of what you were expecting to get out of Blake Monroe, I could see it. But we have that same exact gimmick happening at this moment on the main stage. So I don't think they can follow suit with that. I don't think they can run with get this referee out, because it's just going to be two of the same storylines running rampant. I feel like this is a time and space where you can have Blake Monroe go into that darkness that she has, that hardcore side that she has, and bring it to Thea. Beat her down with some weapons, like a chair or something backstage. Give her that mean streak that we know she has and we've seen before in the past. We've seen it against Jordan Grace. So I think she can, take that anger and build on it, and then really show people, like, don't mess with me. Don't mess with my championship. I will come for you, and you will not leave this building on your own 2 legs. So I think that would be the route I would want to see. But if they're taping tonight, I will definitely be looking for some results, because I am very curious. I cannot wait for next Tuesday to see what happens. I need to know how this pans out, and I hope there is some kind of resolution. But maybe they just about face, change course, and just move forward. I feel like Blake Monroe might be too big of a character to do that with. So I guess we'll wait and see. But I'll be itching to see tonight.
Dude, with what we've read on the internet, that they've had Blake and several others, like, creative mapped out for the next 2-3 months, they need to fix it. Because we read that botch screwed up creative for so many people. And listen, Thea obviously showed emotion. That had to have been real emotion. So, good for her. It happens, and she will be a champion again in the future. I have no doubt about that. But yeah, and you're right. You bring up a great point about Becky. I didn't even think about that. But then maybe you've seen Becky on NXT TV before. Maybe Blake makes a phone call. Makes a phone call to Becky, be like, how did you take care of this? Because it's happening to me too. Maybe something along that line. But I mean, I guess the most direct way is that she demands a rematch, her rematch. Yeah. And they just go from there. And Thea drops the title again. But man, oh man, what a start to NXT, because it was getting crazy, dude.
Yeah, I kind of love it, man. I like the craziness. I like the shock value. I mean, if people were betting and they thought, it was all booked out, put money on, Blake Monroe, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you all lost your money, the wrong horse, that you bet on the wrong horse. It's I just like that this creative team is going to have to think on their feet. If it's a quick pivot, good for them for the quick, 1, 2, 3 fixer upper. But you never know. I think there's a way that they can really alter the trajectory of what this storyline was going to be with Blake, and now including Thea Hale with her having the championship. So I am itching, like I said, to see what they do. This is something you don't see often, especially with title changes. You see it in a normal exhibition or a normal matchup, but for a title to change hands, especially on someone as big as Blake Monroe, it's crazy times in the wrestling world.
And you bring up, like, you like these surprises. I mean, and the unpredictability of NXT. We've discussed this, like, with the partnership between TNA and NXT, we don't know what we're getting. I mean, God, we'll get into it now. We got Moose again. Moose is coming after our boy. Like, did you expect to see Moose on NXT last night? I can guarantee you the answer is no, because I was as stunned as I think everyone was. So, like, this is why it's so cool. And this is why, when TNA goes to AMC next month, there's just going to be endless, like, surprises weekly, because we just don't know who's going to show up where. And I love that. I absolutely love that.
Let's talk about the target on Ethan's back, and even Chelsea's back too. I love that we see Chelsea pretty much every Tuesday now, every Friday, but everyone knows Ethan and Chelsea, they're the hot commodity right now. They are the hottest, most entertaining, most watched champions right now, double champions. You have, Stax Lorenzo and I'm forgetting his girlfriend's name.
Ariana Grace.
Ariana Grace. They want to come for the mixed tag championships. Moose coming out, which I think was perfect, because you have the international champion for TNA, Stax, in the ring. The heights of the century, bringing a TNA championship back to NXT, which we see pretty often, but we don't see the NXT, the TNA superstars coming over to kind of claim some territory of their own. So to have that setup in the ring where you think Moose is going to come after Stax, he's like, "Nah, you took one of ours, we're going to take one of yours." And sorry, Moose, you ain't taking shit from our boy Ethan Page. He is on a level that you will not be able to touch right now. You're great. Trust me, you're a top star over TNA, but Ethan Page is the man in NXT, and he will not be dropping that championship to you. I will go there myself. I'll be ready to be in Ethan's corner. I'll pull the referee out the ring if that's what's going to happen. I'll do what I need to keep Ethan as North American champion. But yeah, it's cool to see that. I mean, we're seeing TNA now being showcased more again on NXT, kind of taking the forefront. We've seen NXT kind of be on the winning end of the exchanges between TNA, but at least they're getting that opportunity. We're going to have a big championship match between Ethan and Moose. And then even I'm going to tease a little bit what happened in the main event. It's cool to see TNA, kind of take some forefront in the main event scenes in NXT.
I mean, listen, we've discussed the partnership, and we've seen NXT talent take multiple TNA titles at this point. We have seen TNA talent challenge for NXT titles, but they have yet to come away with any gold whatsoever. It's gotta happen sooner rather than later, right? Like, we've seen so many TNA talents fall short at an NXT PLE or whatever it may be. Hey, I mean, you just tease the main event. We can just get into it, and we'll kind of bounce around with NXT. I didn't think Leon Slater had a shot in hell to win that number one contenders match. I am so pleased that he did win. I mean, if you listened to the Wrestling Junkies podcast last night, we said like the next person that is going to sign a WWE contract from TNA is going to be Leon Slater. That's the worst kept secret, I think, of all time. WWE wants Leon Slater, and now that he is the number one contender, I don't think it's going to happen yet because, you know, he still has the X Division title. I would love to see him be a double champion. Leon Slater deserves the world, man. But it was a nice shock to see him actually come out on top, because I could have sworn it was going to be Joe Hendry or Dion Lennox.
Yeah, I mean, on the Wrestling Junkies podcast last night, I said I would not be surprised if Leon Slater won, just because of the reception he got at Saturday Night's Main Event. They tore the house down. That match was my favorite match of the night. It was so entertaining. You know, Javon Evans, Leon Slater, AJ Styles, Dragon Lee, they're all just amazing. And AJ at his age, still doing what he does, is insane. But just the way he was showcased, the entrance he got, the reception from the crowd at Saturday Night's Main Event, I think in that moment right there, I think that was kind of a test bucket for Leon Slater. And I think that's why they probably pulled the trigger on him to fight Oba Femi. You know, they were both showcased on Saturday Night's Main Event. We saw Leon and Oba on Saturday Night's Main Event. So when I saw him and he showed out, and I saw Javon wasn't in that fatal four-way because, you know, he had a shot already. He played his card. He lost that match due to Ricky Saints. But I had a feeling, man. I had a feeling Leon Slater, just because of the showcasing he got, he might be the next up-and-comer to fight Oba Femi, and that's what we got. So good for him. You know, if it's anything like we've seen between Oba and Javon, they're going to freaking tear the house down. Hopefully Oba doesn't toss Leon Slater over the top rope through a table. I don't want that for our boy Leon Slater, but I can't wait to see that match. I'm already so hyped. I can't wait for New Year's Evil.
New Year's Evil is going to be a blast, and I wanted to just go back because I wanted your opinion, and we just discussed this off air, but we have Chelsea Green and Sol Ruca. Sol Ruca is challenging for Chelsea Green's United States Championship. You and I, you know, you pretty much said it. We don't want to see Ethan lose. We don't want to see Chelsea lose. Now, we've also in weeks past have discussed waiting for that heel turn. We want to see some conflict between Zarya and Sol Ruca. And even when I went on NXT with Najee, I asked him, I was like, dude, like, it's kind of dying out. Like, no one's going to care about this. And, you know, I think you brought it up, and no one's going to care anymore. And, you know, you were right. And I was like, damn, like, this is what's happening. But now imagine Alba Fire and Chelsea talk to Zarya. They say, hey, we need some muscle now that Piper's gone. And during that match, Zarya turns heel on Sol Ruca. She betrays her friend. She backstabs her, and she joins the Secret Service. I mean, the Secret Service needs some muscle. If you listen to Chris Van Vliet and Chelsea Green when they were live in San Diego, Chelsea mentioned, you know, she has the greatest ideas. She mentioned it possibly having Jordan Grace and Jordan having like tearaway sleeves just to show her muscles. They need muscle, and Zarya could be it. And it's perfect. So, I mean, if it's going to happen now, I hope it happens during that match. Justin's
cooking over there. I mean, I think that's literally the perfect scenario for what's to come for that title defense for Chelsea Green. I don't want to see her lose the championship. I know they're very high on Sol Ruca. She was the only NXT superstar at Saturday Night's Main Event to come out with a W. You know, good for Bayley for doing the job for her and putting on a hell of a match together with Sol Ruca. But, you know, I think the next step would be, I beat Bayley. Now I'm going to be U.S. champion. But I really do hope that Zarya does become the muscle. I want to see the code turn. I want to see her become a traitor. I want to see how Zarya could fit as the muscle in the Secret Service, because she does already have that vibe, and the way she works with Sol Ruca, I could see that being, you know, exemplified as part of the Secret Service, especially someone with Chelsea who brings out that personality in people. And the amount you can learn from Chelsea too would be tremendous, especially from the charisma part, the speaking part, the joking part, because, you know, Chelsea Green, she does the comedic acts here and there, but, you know, to have that in your pocket, I think is great. So for Zarya to then be in that realm, in that area, I think would work wonders for her. So,
yeah, I'm sorry. Finish off. No, and just to people that say that, oh, well, then Zarya and Soul are not going to get their moment together in the ring. Chelsea's on NXT anyway with Ethan. So, I mean, they can just go back and forth like they've been doing with Chelsea. So they can still have the one-on-one match where it's Zarya versus Soul, and now Soul wants to get her revenge on Zarya. And then obviously Zarya's going to have the backup of the Secret Harvest. So and then once that's squashed and done, let Zarya get the call up. I mean, I just don't know. I don't see what else is there for Zarya. And I think this is just the perfect opportunity.
Yeah, and look, Solrook was on Saturday Night Main Event. She beat a main roster superstar. So don't be surprised to see her more on SmackDown and Raw. You see Javon Evans always popping up on Raw or SmackDown. They are showing that kid around. And I think in this day and age, if you're in WWE, you want to show, especially if you're like not the main event, you want to be on NXT, on Raw, on SmackDown, on the road, on the house shows. You want to be popping up everywhere because that's how you get your name out there. And if you're showing out on a random Monday Night Raw that you got brought to, and people are like, holy crap, this kid or this girl is, in NXT right now, I got to tune in on Tuesday night. So the cross promotions, the cross branding between NXT and the main roster and TNA, can't forget TNA, I think is the best spot to be. If you can jump, and Kalani Jordan mentioned it in her segment last night, she's like the best cross promotion wrestler they have to offer. That's amazing. You want to be that. You want to be the best because that brings eyes to the product. That brings eyes to your brand as a superstar. And wherever you go, those fans are going to follow you. And they'll know that if you go to TNA, you might see you back on NXT. Hell, you might be on a Saturday Night's Main Event facing off against, the World Tag Team Champion. So in this day and age, you want to be that cross-promotion person because look at Ethan, look at Chelsea, AAA, NXT, SmackDown. I mean, now against TNA, the sky's the limit when you can bounce around. And if that's your job, man, I want to be grinding. I don't want to stop. If I can work Monday to Sunday, granted, your body's taking a toll, but if you can just do some segments here and there and then work some matches, like a match or two a week, dude, the people are going to be salivating for you more. They're going to want more from you. So they got to just keep that grind going, in my opinion.
And you bring up wanting to be that cross promotion superstar. I still will hold out my hope that we see the Righteous in NXT. And I wanted to bring up, Tatum and the Cullen because obviously that is far from done. You had the first promo, the first segment where you have the Cullen in the background and you see Nico's little doll sitting down on a chair. You have Izzy saying, "Oh, that's just Tatum. I guess she's not done with us, but I took care of the issue." And Nico kind of seemed a little scared. And then later on in the night, there's no Nico to be found. So I don't know what Tatum did to Nico, but it's clearly not done. And clearly, to the Righteous point, they're having their own thing with the Hardys right now, which is amazing for them because we've discussed that with them on this podcast that they look up to them truthfully, like they are legends in this game. And the fact that they got to share the ring with them in AEW and now they're going to share the ring with them again in TNA is just unreal. And you can see them working, just furthering this story on X. Every time Matt or Jeff Hardy are tweeting, you have Vincent and Dutch complimenting them and saying the nicest things in the world to them, just to ultimately get to where I hope we're going to get. But like you said, cross promotion, the Righteous are now with TNA right now, but hey, their partnership. I mean, it can happen at any moment.
I want to hit both your points right there with Tatum and the Righteous. So to continue with the Righteous, I love that there's some truth to what's going on right now, that they are the fans, that they look up to the Hardys, that they want to see them succeed. They're proud of them, but I can't wait for them to ultimately gain the trust of the Hardys, which I think is going to happen, and then just rip those championships away. I want to see the Righteous do the Hardys dirty. I want them to become champions in TNA. And if you're a champion in TNA, you're very likely to then cross over to the NXT world. So I love it. I think the Righteous would be a great team to dethrone the Hardys on this run they've been on as, the TNA World Tag Champions. So I I retweet everything that I see from the Righteous, from Dutch, from Vincent. I love it. I want that out there. I love everything they're doing. So I can't wait to see how that pans out. And like I said, I hope it's with championship gold around their waist. Then to fly back to Tatum, you were right with this, man. You called this, from the get-go with this little feud they got going on with Izzy and the calling. She was going to leave the doll. She was not done. She's, this woman possessed, left alone when she thought she had a new family to be with. And she must be strong as hell to carry a grown man away. Like, I don't know. I don't want to know what she did with the guy because, I mean, look at her. She's tiny. She's feisty, but she's got that evil streak to her. So I can't wait to see how she slowly dismantles the calling to get back to Izzy and hopefully ultimately go over on Izzy. I think this is a real opportunity for both of them to really shine and show what they can do and maybe put themselves in a position to be champion. I mean, there's a whole locker room of women in NXT that I think deserve a championship. Obviously, we're not here for second place prizes, second place trophies. There's no such thing in professional wrestling as there should not be. There's a lot of deserving women in the roster. I mean, look at when Izzy walked into the women's locker room, she found the doll. You had Lola Vice kind of, talk to everyone, being super blunt and truthful. Her and Kalani had a good moment. I'd love to see them go at it because Lola led the charge against Kalani to kick her out the locker room for being TNA Knockouts champion. So, and Kalani said it best, like, Lola, you haven't been champion. I've been champion. Since I've been here, you got nothing. So you might want me gone because you won't be a champion as long as I'm here. So the competition for the women's division in NXT is rampant. You don't know who should be champion, who's going to be champion, who's going to win the championship, even if it's by accident. And they all are super fun to watch. And the women's division as a whole in WWE is just insanely stacked. I mean, look how they're targeting the tag division for the women. They're really, running with it because you can't just have Io Sky and Rhea Ripley on the sideline. So why not put them in the tag team division, especially when Stephanie Vaquer is going to be, the champion for a bit. And you can't really have Rhea lose to Stephanie, in my opinion. Rhea is this larger-than-life superstar, and why not boost that tag division with the likes of the Kabuki Warriors, with the Judgment Day. I mean, the women's division in WWE, both in main roster and NXT, is just insane.
I want to quickly go back to talking about the Righteous, and then I want to go into what you just said. So with the Righteous, I still have hope. That's just all I'm going to say. I still have hope. We've seen performers in the past work without a contract in TNA. Matt Cardona is the perfect example. So right now, like, we have no idea. Maybe they are signed for however long with TNA, or they could be working without a contract right now. So maybe they just want to get themselves out there. I don't want to assume anything, actually. So what I'm saying is I'm still hoping that there's a chance that the Righteous show up, because even with Tatum, I feel like she still needs friends against the culling. You have Sean Spears, you have Nico Vance, and you have Izzy. Like what you just said, like, I don't even know what Tatum did to Nico, but like, it's kind of like, all right, well, does she have some help? Did she find some help, or is she just like pulling some voodoo shit with his doll? So I do eventually hope that we get the help that Tatum needs, because she's down 1-0 to Izzy. I thought maybe perhaps that was when we were going to get the Righteous, but we got the Righteous debuting in TNA the night before. Everything was in Texas at the time, so I was like, oh, maybe they'll do double duty. But still holding out hope for there. And then with the women's division in general, you're right, man. Like, there's just so many women that are worthy of these title opportunities. And I want to see the women's titles more in NXT. Like, why not at this point? You go back to Raw, and obviously you have Asuka blowing the mist in Rhea's face, and you have Io Sky pretty much sacrificing her body to take the Kairi Sane insane elbow drop. I still want to see some sort of NXT talent, because that leads back to Sol and Zarya. If you have them together and they're not going for the tag titles, why do you have them together? Because you're wasting talent at that point.
Yep. Yeah, I mean we've talked about it. It's just long overdue. I mean, at this point, like I don't care. I think if they don't pull the trigger on this title defense for Chelsea Green for the U.S. Championship against Soruko, I don't think it's going to happen. And if it does, I'll be like, oh, well, great, good job, finally happened. I mean, look how long it took for Vahir Mahan to come. We all were bored with it. We've joked about it on this podcast in the inception of this. You tease something so long, and it's like, okay, what the hell? And it becomes a joke, and that's not what I want for Soruko and Zarya. They could have a feud that's super entertaining, that can last months if they want to, and it could be like a Seth Rollins CM Punk situation where they end up just hating each other all the time and getting into each other's way when big opportunities come arise. So I do hope they pull the trigger when Soruko fights for the United States Championship. That's to be seen. I do want to talk about, because we kind of covered already most of NXT besides like Hank and Tech and OTM, and also what I want to talk about, Ricky Saints, his promo with Javon Evans. What are you thinking about this Ricky Saints heel run, man?
I mean, I said it last night when we were guests on the Wrestle Junkies podcast. Once I saw the heel turn, you know me, I started thinking about all the weird possibilities that could possibly come from it. And I thought maybe we were going to get a Ricky main roster finally call up with being the man under the mask with the Vision. Totally would have played out. I thought it would have been great. We know that we've been expecting Austin Theory for a while. That's who it ended up being. I don't know. Like, listen, Ricky's a good heel. If you go back and watch his AEW run, he can be a good heel. NXT right now needs a good heel. But now you already had him lose to Oba, so it just doesn't make any sense in that nature. But now you have him with Javon, and it's like Javon can't lose anymore either. So now it's a rock and a hard place. I'm assuming they're going to end up having Javon beat Ricky, and that's it for Ricky in NXT. So I don't know how long this heel run in NXT is going to be, but it might only be a month or two, in my opinion. And then you might see him go up to the main roster, figure something out. Hell, the Vision just keeps adding members left and right. So maybe he still has a chance to be in the Vision. I don't know.
Yeah. So I don't think Ricky's going to be gone. I think there's not much to move forward with Javon and with Ricky. So I could see them feuding for a bit. I can see them, going to the new year in a feud with each other. I mean, Ricky put some oomph on that Rochambeau through the table on Javon. It looked like it hurt. But yeah, I like this side of Ricky. I really enjoyed his promo. He can flip the switch so easily, and he showed it last night. And for Javon, like, he had the ring circle with security. I mean, he did all the right things to play up. Like, I'm a bad guy now. Don't touch me. I am gonna be the king of this place. Screwing over Javon the week prior, and Javon to come in and just start a war to ultimately get put through the table. I'm excited for it because they can definitely go. I'm excited to see a match between the two of them and see what kind of art they can create together. And that's the one thing I'm excited for. But if neither of them are gonna fight for the NXT Championship, there really isn't much legroom left for them to go. Ricky's not going to go back down to North American Championship. He lost it to Ethan Page, which that was a freaking hell of a match. Loved every bit of it. But there's not much more for Ricky at that point, in my opinion. And the same thing with Javon. I mean, you said it best. Javon can't afford to lose again. He's kind of in these grunts of losing these big matches. I get he's young, but at what point is like, all right, we're going to start losing interest in this guy if he just keeps losing the big ones. I mean, look what they did to Dolph Ziggler. That man should have been a 17-time world champion like John Cena, but he came out as I think a 2 or 3-time champion because he always lost the big ones. So I don't know where they go with that. It's we talked about it last night on the Wrestle Junkies podcast. They gave over the championship to fight Cody just to cop out, which was to me awful decision making. That was bullshit. So that's a bummer. But now what do you do with Oba? Does he feud with Drew McIntyre on SmackDown if Drew screws him over the championship at some point, and then they fight? But who then dethrones Oba? It's either got to be, in my opinion, Jovan, or it's got to be Ricky. I mean, where's Trick been? I miss that man.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. At this point for Oba, just on that point, now that he's champion again, I don't see him dropping the title until Mania weekend at this point, unless someone huge comes into NXT that we are not expecting. I don't see him losing to anyone. Ricky's done it all in NXT. It's time for Ricky to go up to the main roster. You got to figure something out with him. And it's just for Oba, like the main event scene in NXT right now. It's kind of just Oba. Like I see Oba being like Oba finally dropping it Mania weekend and him being like a surprise on the Raw after Mania. Like that's how I see it working for him. And as for Ricky, like I get that they need the heel to be in the main event scene because you have Jovan up there. He's a face. You have Oba. Oba's a face at this point. Everyone's going crazy for Oba Femi. And I don't know if it's gonna work for Ricky. I feel like the call up for him has to be sooner rather than later because you're just gonna keep having him lose at this point.
Yeah, and I'm kind of bummed that they didn't have a draft this year, man. I was really banking on that. I think that could have been a lot of fun. I know the rosters are just stacked, are full. All the spaces are kind of tight. And I think you said SmackDown. I haven't looked into it, but SmackDown's going back to 3 hours soon. Is it next year?
Yeah.
I think that's huge. Honestly, I think that's a huge step in the right direction. SmackDown seems rushed. SmackDown, has so many superstars that can shine. And look what's happened to the United States Championship for the women. It's just kind of bleak. It's really Chelsea bringing it to AAA, to NXT, to really keeping it and shining it and making it look nice and doing something with it. But other than that, like, look what happened with Zelina and Julia. It was just there. And that's a shame because, look what they're doing with the Women's Intercontinental Championship. Raw is 2.5 hours for the most part every week. And that extra time really works. So I'm glad SmackDown's going back 3 hours. They should fill that time properly. If they start having these filler things, I mean, you're in a bad spot. Because for me, back in the day when Vince was running it, if you had these filler squash matches, you're not filling that time properly. We deserve better. The wrestlers deserve better than these squash matches. So if you start seeing that on SmackDown, they should just go back to 2 hours. But hopefully, in this day and age with what we have, I think they'll do the right thing and fill the time properly with the talent they have.
So I'm going to be the devil's advocate here because we have seen 3 hours of SmackDown for a while. And listen, in my opinion, and people, that's why we love professional wrestling and talking, because everyone's allowed to have their own opinions. Towards the end, man, it was brutal. The 3 hours were tough to watch. They were super tough to watch. And then I think the 2.5 hours is perfect. Like if they could just pull that off, that would be great. And that's why it's a bonus to be on Netflix, because you can kind of keep it longer. You can stop it at 2 hours if you need be. 3 hours was, I think, towards the end was way too much because the show just turned into a bunch of backstage segments that really didn't lead to anything, in my opinion. The matches were kind of like, oh, all right, now we have Dragon Lee and, I don't know, at the time, Braun Strowman, like out of nowhere. It's like, oh, all right, I guess they're just doing this to get them on TV. But then it gets to 2 hours and it feels rushed. So it's like give and take. I think if they could ever do 2.5 hours on national TV, I think that'd be great. But as long as they have a plan, they know what titles and what storylines they're trying to progress each and every week. Sure. I love more wrestling, the better for me. I mean, I'm a sucker for watching wrestling in general. So if you're going to throw an extra hour at me, I'm here to watch it. Just make sure it's watchable.
Yeah. And I think they're learning from what's going on with Netflix. I think they're learning with Raw and how they're, using their time wisely, and they are. When I watch Raw for the most part, they're solid episodes, and I'm entertained throughout. I mean, if we look at what happened, this past Monday, you have the Usos versus the New Day, right? Awesome. You had Gunther come out to start the show, goad out the crowd, just talking some few words, talking some crap about making John Cena tap like a little bitch, and Cena's not around to defend himself. You have, Maxine defending the Intercontinental Championship against Ivy Nile. You have, CM Punk coming out and cutting his promo. You have, the Vision. You have Logan Paul and Rey Mysterio. Like, every bit of that show was just, it was one thing that I wanted to watch after the next. And once they create that on SmackDown, I think they can make that work. And just with SmackDown, they kind of just they weren't creating stars. They were feeding people to Cody. Cody would win, and then it's like, all right, who's next? Like, where is this going to go? And then you have this mid-card scene that didn't matter. It just really didn't matter. And they took the thing that mattered most on SmackDown, the tag division, and they butchered it. And they're getting better with it now. I'm taking a better liking to the Wyatt Six. I like what the direction they're going with Solo and his MFTs. But when you have the star division you had, and you can have them constantly trading that championship around between the bunch, and then just to give it to the Wyatt Six was a butchery job. So they have talent there. They have, if they have the time, you could have two big tag feuds going at once, because that SmackDown tag division is no freaking joke. And I mean, it's entertaining with Ilya Dragunov with his US, Open Challenge. I like that they're keeping that. That's something that'll bring eyes to the product every week. And if you have a heel bring it in, you can, you can have them come out and say, not this week, I'm not feeling it. And you really goat that up too. So there's big opportunity to happen and fill those 3 hours. It's just, you need that creative team to be on point and not do what they did in the past.
Preach. You just made me think about the tag division, man. And when they were at their peak, when SmackDown tag division was at their peak with getting kind of screwed on having that TLC match at Mania and then having it on the SmackDown after, and one of the best matches of the year still, in my opinion. You have the Motor City Machine Guns are not really doing much right now. You're right. Like, the storyline's not there. Like, sure, you still have DIY together. Sure, Tommaso Ciampa wanted to go after the United States Championship. He did. You still saw Candice LeRae and Johnny Gargano trying to help Ciampa, so they're still together. Like, there's still a lot of teams that are together that you're just not seeing anything happen with, other than the MFTs and the Wyatt Six, which, to your point, has been getting better. The Wyatt Six are trying to take over Triple A2, which I respect. I love that. It's awesome. But you're right. Like, they really have to lock in. Like, once this 3 hour mark hits again, they really have to lock in and figure out what they're doing. Yeah.
And if they don't, it's going to be a lot less viewership and a lot of people bored and a really mad network. I have good feelings about this going to 3 hours. They can learn from their mistakes. Like I said, they're learning from what they're doing with Netflix. I know people are not high on Triple H right now. Like you said on the Wrestling Junkies podcast last night, that definitely wasn't all a Triple H idea for John Cena to tap out. It was definitely a John Cena idea. So cut my boy some slack, man. He's running a huge company, trying to entertain the masses and lead us into the road to WrestleMania. We're almost at the Rumble. That's going to be in Saudi. We're going to be pushing the gas pedal to get to WrestleMania in April. And we're going to see how it goes, because the road to WrestleMania is starting real freaking soon, people. So strap in. It's going to be a ride.
Yeah, and once again, shout out to the fellas at the Wrestling Junkie podcast. We had a great time last night. If we're at the 50-minute mark now, so we probably won't dive into Raw, but if you wanted to hear our Raw thoughts, go check out their replay. It's available on all their social media and YouTube, because, like you said, Triple H really ate everything about the finish of Cena and Gunther. And when you're thinking about it, dude, John Cena must have had a say in how that match ended and how his career ended. So let's lay off Triple H a little bit. I'm with you. I've had my gripes with him about things that he says, but this one, lay off a little bit. But with that said, let's ring the bell. because this podcast episode is going to be over. Quick bell, just like Thea Hale and Blake Monroe last night. But anyway, thank you all for joining us, all 210 of you. We will be hopefully live Sunday for the quick count. We will go over SmackDown and whatever else happens throughout the weekend. You can go follow Ty at TLP_maximum on X. I am at JStar02 on X. And then obviously top left corner for the podcast, we are at the 10 Count Pod on all socials and especially YouTube. Go leave us a subscribe. It takes 2 seconds and I'm dying to get to 100. Also make sure that you are subscribed to the Body Slam Patreon. The link is down below for breaking news, exclusive interviews, and more. The fellas are keep grinding. They're giving us, the SmackDown previews, the Raw previews, and everything in between. Now at the top left corner, you have a QR code. That QR code, if you scan it, brings you to prowrestlingtees.com/the 10 Count Pod, where you can get your official merch of the 10 Count Podcast. It would any shirt bought for the holidays. We have the holidays coming up. Happy Hanukkah to all those that are celebrating right now, and we have Christmas coming up. If anybody wants a gift, that link has some pretty nice shirts. But until then, thank you all so much for joining us. We will see you on the next one on Sunday. Until then, have a great weekend.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you.